Alright, so today we're going to take a look at another one of these pedals that I borrowed from a friend here in town. It's always nice being in Nashville and having other musicians with other equipment you can easily borrow from. So this is the Earthquaker Devices Pitch Bay, and this one's kind of interesting. Obviously it's giving you octave up and down options. You got a root note that you can blend in there, and then even a gain control. So I'll probably do a comparison between this and say like the octave 7-up that you get from TC Electronics, or even the Brainwaves Harmony harmonizer, just to show the differences between them. Little different as far as like the control setup goes on it. So I'll go ahead and get into that. This is my clean tone. I'm using my Telecaster, obviously running straight into the pitch bay and then going into the front of the Simplifier. I'm not going to mess around with any different routing stuff today, just going to focus on how this thing works. So clean sound. Let's start like this. Let's turn the volume on the up and down all the way down, and I've got the root note going. Okay, let me turn the gain down too, so I can have the gain all the way down and it doesn't affect like the sound, other than it's just really quiet. Let's see, unity gain seems to be about here, kind of about 1-2 o'clock there. If I'm right up in the middle, that's pretty close to unity too. So anything above that, you're actually just boosting the signal, which is kind of nice. The gain is going to be fairly obvious. So if you wanted, you could even just use it like that. Now if I turn the root all the way down, obviously the signal goes away. It needs that, at the very least. I don't know that it can do harmonics that well. I guess it's hitting them okay there, especially considering I'm using my Telecaster here. On the Simplifier, I'm on my Marshall settings that I usually use a lot, 412 cabs, greenback speakers. So now let's get into the interesting stuff with it. So you probably notice, let's get the gain down just a little bit too. You probably notice that these knobs are turned in with each other. So just to run over everything real quick, of course we have the gain on the right hand top side, and then we have pitch with an arrow down, pitch with an arrow up, and then we on the bottom row we have our root volume, the octave down volume, and the octave up volume. So why these are pointed in like this is it's kind of weird, and I don't know that I would have put this together like this, but you know, they probably have some other pedals with different layouts and things, and this must be kind of a unique deal with it. So with my volume up, I'm going to cut the root down kind of low, and let's bring up the up. So right about there you hear it coming in. And I gotta say, I don't really feel like there's any like latency or anything on the root note, but on the octave up, it does feel like that there is a tiny bit of latency before it reacts right there. So it's probably processing the signal. Alright. So with this all the way up, it is providing an octave up tone to the root note that I'm playing. Now as I turn it down, it takes a while. You know, this is doing nothing, but suddenly, hear that? So it went down a half step, another half step. And the very lowest one is that, right there. So that sounds wrong. And just to throw this out there, you know, my friend that I borrowed this from, I didn't want to borrow every pedal that he had all at once. I asked for a couple, and he threw this one in, said this was a freebie, and he described it as something that could generate some really cool wrong notes. And I thought that was an interesting way to describe this pedal, because I could see how you could wind up with that. If you have this all the way down, that sounds wrong, because the difference in the note is only a minor second away. So I have the root, and then a minor second up from that is this other note. Minor seconds are commonly like the wrong note that you hit. If you're trying to hit something, you're one fret off one direction or the other, and the clash that creates with other musicians you're playing with creates that wrong note sound. And that's kind of what we have built in right there. Now, let me count these intervals that we have here. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you do have 12 notes this at your disposal that you could mess with there. So this is an octave up. I'm like, okay, I get that. It would be nice if all the way down was not, I mean, I get why they do it, that it's not just another root note, but it's weird that it would be just that minor second interval whenever you have it all the way down. So I would not recommend having it there. If anything, it's just going to sound better if it's right here, unless you need something different. Now let's cover the octave down, because on this one, let me do this. I'll turn that up all the way down, and I'll turn the down up about halfway. Okay, now that's an octave down from the root note, and you can see this knob is all the way down. Now as I start to turn it up there, very similar to what happens with the up control. So again, I went through, let's see, all 12 notes here. Let's see, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, let me do that again. Kind of lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So on that 12 right there, it would be really nice if there was an extra one that you could add in there. And again, it would just be the unison, but you wouldn't just have that minor second thing going on there with it. So I could make a really, really bad note by turning this one all the way down, this one all the way up, and then let's put this here. So now I've got, like if I hit the note A, that sounds terrible. That's not just an A, that is an A and a B flat and a G sharp. Or you could think of it as an A flat, and an A sharp. 3 notes, just one after the other, all stacked in there. That's why that sounds so terrible. Okay, so again, probably don't use that. At the very least, you turn this all the way up and this all the way down. Okay, so I've got my root note. Boost it a little bit more, cut these, but I've got my root note, I've got an octave down, and I have an octave up. Now I probably wouldn't recommend running distortion into something like this, but you can, give yourself more gain with that. Let's see. And it looks like it does that across the octaves. It's not just adding it onto the root. So you start getting that gain on the octave up and octave down. Alright, and like I was about to say, I probably wouldn't run distortion into this, but what you could do is give a little bit more gain on the amp side there. Bring this down. Cool. All right. So we see what we can do there. Now this is just octave up, octave down. I can do this with other types of octave effects, although a lot of other octave pedals that I've seen do not have the gain knob that can be added. This one does not feature 2 octaves down, 2 octaves up, or any intervals above an octave. So that's something that I know that I'm going to be able to get with the, say, comparing it to the Brainwaves pitch shifter, but that doesn't have gain to it there. So something to, weigh this out against. It would be really cool if they had added some kind of expression control to something like this, to be able to control, I don't know, one of the features, or have some kind of dip switch thing where you could control what you're actually changing whether it's the intervals, the drive, or any of the octaves that you're controlling there with it. I guess something else you could do, just so it's not like, oh, this is the one setting you want to do and you want to avoid this other one. Let's maybe make a chord with it. So I can't do. Oh, that's the other thing I can't do, is I can't do like two voices above the pitch or two voices below the pitch. It has to be one pitch above and one pitch below. So just something else to keep in mind with this. Let's see this though. Let's see. I'm gonna start with just the high. Let's have the octave or the high octave be, say, a fifth above. So I think right about there we're good. Let's see. Alright. Just gotta measure that out, and then I guess I could do, say, like, now, even though these are pointed the same way, I think this one would be a fourth and this one would be a fifth, or it would actually be backwards. So that's kind of cool. Add some gain into it. It also bends okay. It doesn't get like too glitchy and jumping between notes or anything. I don't know that this is something that could be left on all the time, unless you were really going for the big, thick sound with it. And it's cool that it has things like the thirds and sixths and sevenths and everything, but without the ability to switch between major and minor intervals without reaching down to do it, that does limit this on what you can actually be able to do with it. So octaves, perfect fourths, perfect fifths, those are good intervals to work with this, but maybe unless you have something very specific in mind, you might want to avoid seconds, thirds, sixth, and seventh intervals there. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up for today. Like I said, I'll probably do some comparison between this and the pitch shifter, which I have as part of the Plethora X5. And yeah, I'll do that. And I know I'm using a lot of terms about majors, minors, seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, perfect chords, and everything. If any of that stuff you feel like you need a further explanation on, I do have some lesson videos that will explain that, and I use the language that I'm going to be using going forward and all that stuff. So check out my playlist on chords and or my playlist on scales, and yeah, check that out too. Like I said, I'll wrap this up, and I will see you guys here soon. Thanks.